guys, my name is Emily, and today I wanted to talk about Tempests and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. So I was lucky enough to borrow an ARC sent to my coworker, so I gained access to this ARC through my work as an Indigo employee, and this, of course, is an honest review. Tempests and Slaughter is the new book by Tamora Pierce, coming out February 6, 2018, and I am so excited for it. I have it pre-ordered, and I can't wait to own a physical copy because I really enjoyed this book. So this is the story of Numair as a child before he chooses a mage name back in the day when he is known as Aram Draper, and it does have some pretty big time jumps. So it follows him from the point where he's like 10 or 11 in basic university magic courses to the point where he's probably doing his like PhD in magic. Like, he has a lot of independent courses. He is supervised by individual professors or masters of different magic areas. It is basically him and his friends going on this sort of university adventure, and so slowly we're learning things about his best friend. I pronounced it Ozorn in my head. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it in reality, but he is in line to become the ruler of Carthag, but he's like 12 people back at the beginning of the book, and throughout the book, more and more of his family members keep dying. These royal deaths, I think, are the larger overarching plot of this trilogy. We're gonna see how this guy goes from being Aram Draper's best friend to, my prediction is, the ruler of Carthag. Because I can't quite remember the Immortals series, and I can't remember who is in charge. That's my prediction for the overarching plot, is seeing not only Numair's development, because we see Numair as this like wonderful, like powerful, incredibly knowledgeable mage in the Immortals and in the Protector of the Small series. And of course, I've always wondered, how did he get there? How did you learn to do all of this stuff? And so we're seeing that process, the shaping of Numair's character. But what I found really interesting is that Numair maintains throughout this book, like, he is not good with bodily fluids, he is not good with gross things, he becomes physically ill a lot, and he doesn't like hurting people. He does not want to be a mage that uses battle magic, basically. Then you think of him in the Protector of the Small and in the Immortals and how often he uses his magic in battle. And my thought is, how did you get from here to there? So I'm super curious to see Numair develop as a character, and I really enjoyed it. Other pluses to this series is it is the most progressive of Tamora Pierce's work. So keeping in mind that she started writing in like the 70s, her work has always been about as progressive as the times were. It seems like she's always been very like politically aware, very politically in tune, and so we see her books, her early books, reflecting like the 70s feminist movement, really. And then we see in some of her later books like a clear inclusion of more people of color, sort of hinting at queer people. And then finally we get to one of her more recent books is The Will of the Empress and the Becca Cooper series. And in those we have explicitly queer characters. So, of course, this book coming out 2018 is the most progressive of her works, where it just has people of color. It's not the way the Bashir appear in Alana's books, where like they appear very like foreign and other, and it's like this sort of subtle, probably unintentional colonial narrative of the good white Tortalians, including the Bashir tribes, into the folds of Tortal by becoming the voice of the tribes. That's what Jonathan does. He becomes the voice of the tribes. So you have this white king finally unifying Tortal by forcing himself into the heart of the tribes. And then the Bashir become more a part of like Tortalian armies and Tortalian knighthood, and so we see the inclusion of people of color, but I feel like the Bashir are always sort of peripheral, and like there definitely are people of color in Tamora Pierce's other works, but you really have to look for them. Not in Tempests and Slaughter. In Tempests and Slaughter you have this really like, it reflects the university space, right? A real university campus tends to be a lot more progressive and diverse because you have people coming from all over the place to learn from the best teachers. So you have, and of course the university hires the best teachers no matter where you come from, what you believe. So you have the inclusion of a lot of really powerful knowledgeable mages who are people of color, familiar with tribal magic and the more like standard Tortallin gift. It is a really cool multicultural setting, and that was beautiful. The other really beautiful thing was the inclusion of explicitly queer characters, and there's no like weird fantasy, like sometimes fantasy books step around this, and I feel like Tamora Pierce has done that before. I can't 100% remember, but like they don't call life partners husbands or wives. Like she hasn't committed to that in the past. She's been like, oh, like sometimes men love other men, sometimes women love other women, but like in this book you have specifically a male character whose partner comes in and brings him a meal because they've been working hard, and he's like, oh yeah, this is my husband, and husband is specifically put in the text, and that is super awesome, super cool, and it brought me so much joy. So I love that Tamora Pierce's works have continued to reflect like changing political cultures. I feel like, of course, if she could go back and do it again, a lot of her books would be a lot more progressive, but that is the beauty and I guess the curse of having a career that spans decades. Your most progressive work will always, at some point, seem a little outdated. I loved this book. I absolutely loved it. And I don't think you need to read The Immortals to read this. I don't think you need to read her other works to read this. It very much stands alone, but if you happen to have read her other works, I think it will be a lot more fun. Like for me personally, I'm fascinated about seeing Numair develop as a character because he's always sort of this like elusive, magical, powerful guy. To see him as a small child making mistakes, it's absolutely fascinating. I'm loving it. My one criticism of the book, with no spoilers, there are sort of two events that happen near the end of the book. One of the events is clearly more climactic than the other. It clearly is going to incite the incidents in the rest of this series, or at least in the next book. The other incident is like a big development for Numair's character. It's also a development for some of the characters around Numair. It's shaping them, it's sort of changing our perspective of them. And I honestly feel like we have this like really climactic moment, like this is the key, guys, this is the thing that will carry us through the rest of the series. We like sort of drop that, it goes to the side, like, oh, that's a cool piece of information, keep that in mind, and then we have this like other like little blip. And then the book ends. Now, this could be because it's an arc. I don't know. This could be what happens in the final book. I really don't know. But I feel like those events should have been switched. I feel like to make it a more powerful narrative, the like really super exciting thing should have happened last. And that would immediately feed into our next book because we'd be closing the book with this exciting event. And it would be like, ooh, what's going to happen with that? Whereas the personal development for Numair and the other characters, sorry, Aram. I keep calling him Numair because in my mind he's always Numair, even though he starts out Aram Draper. This personal development for Aram and the other characters, it needs to happen, but I think it could have happened first, and then we could have concluded with a super exciting thing. That's the only thing that I feel like is a little bit wonky, given that this is supposed to be a trilogy and you want people excited for the next book, like really excited for the next book, so you think you would conclude with that. I don't know if maybe in the grand scheme of things when you read the trilogy, if those events being in that order will make more sense. It felt like an anticlimax. So like overall, I love what the book did to the world building. I loved seeing Numair, I loved seeing the characters, I loved learning so much more about the gift. Basically, in a nutshell, I'm very pleased, I'm very excited, and I can't wait for the rest of this series. So let me know in the comments down below, are you a Tamora Pierce fan? Have you read any of her works? If you do have a favorite quartet or series or like character arc, because some of the later ones are just duologies, let me know in the comments down below. If you're thinking of picking this up, I would love to hear that too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!